Imagine picking fresh fruit from a 5-gallon bucket sitting on your patio. Sounds impossible, right? But it's not. You don't need a huge backyard or an expensive orchard to grow real food. With the right plant, the right pot, and a few simple rules, you can grow surprisingly productive fruit right on a balcony, patio, or porch. And today, I'm going to show you 21 fruit trees and plants that can actually thrive in containers. Some can save you money at the grocery store, some can give you fruit surprisingly fast, and a few can even become a small source of income. Welcome back to Yard Doctor. Let's get started. 21. Grapes, yes, you can grow grapes in a pot. For a small space, look for a true dwarf variety like Pixie. It can stay very small and works well in a 5-gallon container. But if you want full-sized eating grapes, give the vine a much bigger pot, around 15 to 20 gallons and at least 16 inches of soil depth. Grapes need plenty of sunlight, ideally 6 to 8 hours a day, and excellent drainage. The biggest mistake is overwatering. Grapes hate sitting in wet soil, and don't ignore pruning. Without regular pruning, you can end up with a huge mass of leaves and very little fruit. One more tip. Avoid black containers in intense summer heat because they can become extremely hot around the roots. 20. Goji berries are expensive at health food stores, but you can grow your own plant in a container. Give it a 10 to 20 gallon pot and something to climb on. Here's the important part. Goji berries are different from blueberries. They prefer alkaline soil around pH 7 to 8. So don't put them in acidic blueberry soil. Give them lots of sunlight and avoid keeping the roots constantly wet. You may get a few berries in the first year, but production usually improves in the second and third years. And fresh goji berries are something most grocery stores simply don't offer. 19. Gooseberries and currants. These old-fashioned fruits are seriously underrated. Gooseberries and currants can grow very well in containers, and one plant can produce for many years. But there's an important warning. Some areas have restrictions on growing certain currants and gooseberries because of their historical connection to white pine disease. So check your local rules before buying one. If they're legal where you live, they're excellent container plants. They prefer good sunlight, although hot climates may benefit from some afternoon shade. Good airflow is also important because humid, stagnant conditions can encourage mildew. Prune out some of the oldest branches each year to keep the plant productive. 18. Dwarf mulberry. If you want one of the easiest fruits on this list, look at dwarf mulberry. Some dwarf varieties can grow in surprisingly small containers and can produce fruit early. They're also self-fertile, so you only need one plant. The best part? Mulberries produce on new growth. That means you can prune the plant to keep it compact while encouraging fresh growth and more fruit. Just don't overfeed it. Too much nitrogen can give you a beautiful green bush with very few berries. And fresh mulberries are difficult to find in stores because they're extremely soft and don't ship well. Growing them yourself is often the only way to enjoy them fresh. 17. Want a Mediterranean-looking plant on your patio? Try an olive tree. Arbequina is one of the better choices for containers because it's relatively compact and self-pollinating. Give it a large container, plenty of sunlight, and excellent drainage. And remember, live trees like things on the dry side. Overwatering is one of the easiest ways to kill one. If you live somewhere cold, you can grow the tree in a container and move it indoors during winter. One important thing. Olives, straight from the tree, are extremely bitter. They need to be properly cured before eating. So this is not just a fruit tree. It's also a beautiful patio plant. 16. This one is going to surprise a lot of people. Pineapple guava, also called feijoa, looks tropical but is tougher than you might expect. Its flowers are beautiful and even the petals are edible. The flavor of the fruit is unusual, somewhere between pineapple, strawberry, and mint. For container growing, choose a compact variety. It wants good sunlight, well-draining soil, and consistent moisture. If you only have room for one plant, choose a variety known for better self-fertility. And don't expect a huge harvest immediately. Give it a few years. But once it starts producing, you'll have a fruit that very few people around you are growing. 15. Elderberries can be extremely productive in a large container, but this one comes with a serious warning. Do not eat raw elderberries. The raw berries, leaves, and stems can make you sick. Elderberries should be properly cooked before eating. For better production, plant two compatible varieties rather than relying on one lonely bush. They like sunlight and can handle colder climates. You can use the cooked berries for things like syrups and jams. And because elderberry products can be expensive, one healthy plant can provide a surprising amount of value. That's the first 7, but we're just getting started. Welcome back to Yard Doctor. If you think you need a huge yard to grow fruit, the next 7 plants might change your mind. Some of these can handle serious cold. Others can produce multiple harvests. And one of them can give you fruit from a container for decades. Let's continue. 14. Honeyberry, if you live somewhere cold, pay attention to this one. Honeyberry, also called haskap, can survive extremely cold winters and produces fruit very early in the season. In fact, it can ripen before strawberries. The berries look like long blueberries, and the flavor is often described as a mix between blueberry and raspberry. But here's the mistake beginners make. One plant usually isn't enough. You need two compatible varieties that bloom at the same time for proper pollination. Plant them near each other, and you'll have a much better chance of getting a real crop. Give them sunlight, well-draining soil, and regular water. And don't judge ripeness by the outside color alone. Cut a berry open. When the inside is deeply purple, it's ready. 13. Nectarines in a pot? Absolutely. But you need the right tree. Look for a true genetic dwarf variety. That's important because a normal tree grafted onto dwarfing rootstock can still become much too large for a container. A true genetic dwarf stays naturally small. Use a large container. Something around a half wine barrel can work well. Give it full sun and good drainage. And here's something many beginners hate doing. Thin the fruit. Yes, remove some of those tiny baby nectarines. If you leave too many, the tree may produce a huge number of small disappointing fruits. Remove some, and the remaining nectarines can become much larger and tastier. 12. Thornless blackberries. Traditional blackberries can become a thorny nightmare, but dwarf thornless varieties are a completely different story. A variety like baby cakes can stay compact and works well in containers. Some plants can even give you 2 harvests in a season, and because they're thornless, they're much easier for kids to pick. Give the plant plenty of sunlight and keep it watered while the berries are developing. After a cane produces fruit, prune that old cane out and keep the new ones for the next crop. It's simple. No giant blackberry jungle required. 11. Dwarf raspberries. Fresh raspberries are expensive and they spoil quickly. That makes them a great fruit to grow yourself. A dwarf variety like raspberry shortcake is designed for containers. It stays compact, doesn't have the same thorn problems as traditional raspberries, and can grow happily in a large pot. The biggest issue is water. During hot weather, container raspberries can drink surprisingly fast. Sometimes they may need water every day. And pay attention to pruning. After a cane produces fruit, remove that cane while keeping the new canes for future production. Get that wrong and you can accidentally remove next year's crop. But when you pick a perfectly ripe raspberry straight from the plant, it's hard to beat. 10. Dwarf pomegranate. If you're the kind of gardener who forgets to water sometimes, listen up. Pomegranates are surprisingly forgiving. Dwarf varieties can stay small, and they tolerate dry conditions once established. They also produce beautiful orange-red flowers, so they look great even when they aren't producing fruit. The key is sunlight. Give them at least 6 hours of direct sun. And don't keep the soil constantly wet. Too much water can cause root problems. If you live somewhere cold, the tree can go dormant during winter, and the container can be protected in an unheated space. It's tough, attractive, and useful. 9. Column R apples. This is the fruit tree that tricks a lot of beginners. Columnar apple trees grow tall and narrow, which makes them perfect for small spaces. But there's one big problem: pollination. Many columnar apples need another compatible apple variety blooming nearby. So you can buy one beautiful tree, take care of it for years, and still get almost no apples. The solution is simple. Grow 2 compatible varieties together. They don't need much horizontal space, so even a small patio can handle 2. Give them a large container, full sun, and good drainage. And because the tree is narrow, it's easy to inspect for pests and problems. 8. Genetic dwarf peaches. A fresh peach picked directly from your own tree is something special. And yes, you can grow peaches in containers. Again, the secret is choosing a true genetic dwarf. Varieties such as Bonanza or Honey Babe can stay much smaller than standard peach trees. They're also self-fertile, so one tree can produce fruit. But peaches have another requirement: winter chill. If you keep the tree warm indoors all winter, it may not receive enough cold to bloom properly. So choose a variety that matches your climate. Use a large container, full sunlight, and excellent drainage. And thin the fruit in spring. Fewer fruits usually means larger, better peaches. So now we've covered another 7. We've already covered 14 fruit plants. But the final 7 are some of the most useful. One can produce fruit in its first season. One can turn a patio into a tropical garden. And number 1 isn't just great for eating. It can actually give you a chance to make money. Let's finish the list. 7. Dwarf cherries. Most people picture a huge cherry tree when they think about growing cherries. But dwarf bush cherries change the game. Varieties like Carmine Jewel and Juliet were developed for cold climates and can stay much smaller than traditional cherry trees. A mature plant can produce a surprisingly large harvest for its size. They're also self-fertile, so one plant can produce. A large container or half barrel works well. And there's another advantage to keeping cherries small. Bird protection becomes much easier. You can cover a 5 or 6 foot bush with netting in minutes. Try doing that with a 30-foot cherry tree. 6. Everbearing strawberries. If you want fruit quickly, start here. Day-neutral or everbearing strawberries can produce fruit during their first season. That means months instead of years. They also produce fruit in waves instead of giving you everything at once. You can keep picking berries throughout the growing season. A 5-gallon bucket can hold several strawberry plants if it has proper drainage. Give them sunlight and consistent moisture, but be careful when planting. Never bury the crown. The crown needs to stay right at the soil surface. Also remove unwanted runners if your goal is maximum fruit production. And remember, strawberries eventually get tired. After a couple of strong years, replacing old plants with fresh ones can keep production high. For small space gardening, strawberries are one of the biggest wins you can get. 5. Blueberries. Blueberries might be one of the best container fruits available, but they have one requirement you absolutely cannot ignore: acidic soil. Blueberries prefer a pH around 4.5 to 5.5. Put one in ordinary garden soil and it may turn yellow, weak, and miserable. But containers give you an advantage. You control the soil. Use a potting mix designed for acid-loving plants, such as the type used for azaleas and rhododendrons. Dwarf varieties like Top Hat are especially useful for containers. Keep the soil consistently moist because blueberry roots are shallow and don't like drying out. Use an acidic fertilizer and don't overfeed. If you get the soil right, blueberries can become one of the most rewarding plants on your patio. 4. Dwarf bananas. Nothing gets people's attention like a banana plant growing on a patio. Dwarf Cavendish varieties can work in large containers. But don't expect bananas from a plant sitting in a dark corner. Bananas need 3 things: heat, sunlight, and time. Give them a large pot, rich soil, plenty of water, and good nutrition. In cold climates, move the container indoors before frost. And here's the cool part: a banana stalk fruits only once. After that, the main stalk dies. But before it dies, it produces baby plants called pups. Keep one strong pup, and it can become your next fruiting plant. So one banana plant can keep producing new plants for you. 3. Meyer lemon. If I could put one citrus tree on a patio, Meyer lemon would be high on my list. It's compact, productive, and the flowers smell incredible. Choose a grafted tree rather than growing one from seed if you want fruit sooner. Start with a manageable pot and move it into a larger container as it grows. The biggest advantage of growing citrus in a pot is control. If winter gets too cold, move it inside. If pests show up, you can isolate the tree. But indoor pollination can become a problem. When the tree is flowering indoors, use a small plain paintbrush to move pollen from flower to flower. It takes less than a minute. With the right care, you can have fresh lemons without needing a citrus orchard. 2. Dwarf avocado. Avocados in a container sound crazy, but with the right dwarf variety, it can work. A true dwarf avocado can stay much smaller than a standard avocado tree and can be grown in a large container. Start with a large pot and make drainage your top priority. Avocados hate constantly wet roots. Use a fast-draining growing mix and never allow the pot to stay waterlogged. They also need patience. This isn't a strawberry that gives you fruit in a few months. You may need to wait a few years for meaningful production. But once the tree gets established, you can potentially harvest your own avocados for many years. And if you live in a cold climate, simply move the container indoors before freezing temperatures arrive. Figs. And finally, number 1, the fig. For container growing, figs are incredibly hard to beat. They're naturally suited to pots, they can stay relatively compact with pruning, and they don't need a second tree for pollination. That means one tree can give you fruit. Some varieties can start producing surprisingly young. And figs respond well to pruning, so you can keep the tree at a manageable size. But here's what makes figs really interesting. They're also extremely easy to propagate from cuttings. Take a healthy dormant cutting, root it properly, and you can create another fig tree. That means one tree can eventually become several. And if you grow unusual or desirable varieties, rooted plants and cuttings can have value to other gardeners. So a fig can give you food, save you money, and potentially become a small side income. That's why I put it at number one. The secret to success now, before you run out and buy 21 plants, there's something more important than the plant itself. It's the container, the soil, and your watering. Get those three things right, and your chances of success go way up. First, choose a container that matches the mature size of the plant. Second, never use heavy garden soil in a container. It can compact around the roots and hold too much water. Use a quality potting mix instead. Third, make sure the container has proper drainage holes. A plant sitting in water is a plant in trouble. Adding a layer of mulch on top can also help keep the soil cooler and slow down moisture loss. And remember, container plants depend on you for nutrients. Every time you water, some nutrients can leave through the drainage holes. So regular feeding matters. Fabric grow bags can work extremely well because they encourage better root growth, but they can dry out faster. Rigid containers usually hold moisture longer. Neither is automatically better. You simply need to understand how quickly your container dries out and adjust your watering. So there you have it. 21 fruit trees and plants that can turn a balcony, patio, porch, or tiny backyard into a real food-producing space. You don't need acres. You don't need a huge budget. And you definitely don't need to be an expert gardener. Start with one plant. Maybe it's a fig, maybe blueberries, maybe strawberries, or a Meyer lemon. Pick the one that fits your space and your climate, put it in the right container, and start learning. Because one healthy plant can teach you more than 100 gardening videos. If you already grow fruit in containers, tell me what you're growing in the comments. And if this video helped you, subscribe to Yard Doctor for more simple, practical gardening tips. Start small, grow something, and turn your little space into food. I'll see you in the next one.